Transitions are hard for everybody, but for specific kids and for specific parents, it's sometimes harder. If you're feeling like this transition or this meltdown or this aggression that comes at you from your small child, maybe 2 years old, 3 or 4 years old, at that age range, and also older, when you find that this is just disproportionate and it's not making sense in your head because you've done all the right things. You've given them the warning, you've given them a heads up, you've given them enough time to transition, but none of it is working. There might be a secret hidden cause that's making your child behave that way, and I'm going to explain that right now. Your child is having an exceptionally difficult time transitioning from one activity to another is because they most probably are on the neurodivergent spectrum. Most commonly, this is going to be ADHD or autism. Before you get defensive, hear me out. The reason why I'm saying that is because ADHD kids, people, adults also have a really hard time transitioning, specifically when they go into hyper-focus mode. Somebody with ADHD, when they're in hyper-focus, they're not going to want to come out of it no matter what. Like, they won't break their focus to pee, they won't break their focus to eat, to drink, to talk to anybody, to sleep, anything like that. And this is an adult who is, has a bit more experience regulating themselves. But imagine a child with ADHD. They have that same hyper focus. They have the same intensity in their experience, but they haven't yet learned to deal with that. They haven't yet learned that, oh man, I have to finish playing now. How can I make this easier on myself? What carrot can I dangle for myself that this is going to be easier for me? They're little, they're like 3-4 years old, and they haven't even had that experience yet. Their brain isn't developed to that level yet. So they're having an exceptionally hard time because of this. I also mentioned autism here. Again, before you get defensive, hear me out. Autism might be a reason that's contributing to your child behaving this way, because autistic brains have an all or nothing type of thinking. Sometimes they have a black or white kind of thinking. There's no shade of gray. So, for example, it's like, oh, that person didn't smile at me, they hate me. There's no gray area. It's like they either love me or they hate me. This is often how autistic minds make sense of the world or people. So when it comes to transitioning from playtime to bedtime, let's say, the reason why your child might be really struggling with that is that in their mind it's like black or white. When playtime is finished, it's just finished and it's never going to be there for them ever again. So there's this black or white thinking. It's like, oh, it's either play 100% or 0%, and they don't want the 0%. They don't want to not play. They don't want to not leave the playground, or whatever it is that's triggered this meltdown and this aggression towards you. This black and white thinking, this all or nothing thinking, is actually coming from a place of fear. They're terrified that they'll never get a chance to experience that fun thing ever again. It doesn't matter that every single night you have playtime and then bedtime. It doesn't matter that every other day of the week you go to the playground and then you go home. Even if there's this continuity, oftentimes, not every single time, there comes a point where it becomes have it that way or else kind of thing, when they become so used to their routine. But until that point is reached, it is so difficult, because they really feel like, if I lose this opportunity, if once this opportunity of me experiencing this fun thing is finished, I will never get it back again. This is it for me. It's never going to be there for me again. There's this incredible sense of loss, and these little kids are not being able to deal with that overwhelming feeling of loss, and that's why they're freaking out. Some kids might behave aggressively in this situation. Some kids might become extremely sad, shut down. Some kids will have an absolute meltdown. You know, maybe some of you have experienced when a child comes over to play at your place, and then when it's time to go home, they just lose it, go crazy. They either start to cry or throw themselves on the floor and roll around and scream, whatever. I've seen it all. So this is what's happening here because they might be on the spectrum. That explains why they're having an exceptionally hard time with this transition. If you're new here, hi, I'm Ananga. I have ADHD and autism, and I have one kid with ADHD and autism, just like me, and another one who's highly sensitive. And my husband is also ADHD. Welcome to our neurodivergent family. On this channel, we talk about how to be a great parent even when you're neurodivergent, and your kids might also be. And not only that, they're triggering your ADHD, your autism things, your anxiety or your depression, how to handle that, how to recognize that, and how to navigate this whole thing without putting extra stress and this burden on your own self and on your children. I'm talking about this today because I personally have experience with this. Like, I had such a hard time one day getting my son, who's ADHD and autistic, and I didn't know that he was either of those at the time. He was probably 2.5 or 3 years old, and I had just simply asked him, okay, come inside now. I told you 3, 4, 5 times already, we're gonna go in soon as time to have dinner. And he absolutely went crazy on me. Like, he attacked me. You know, imagine like a 3-year-old, your darling boy, whatever, suddenly like attacking you with a little garden shovel. I mean, a plastic one, but still, it was really hard. And I couldn't make sense of it in my head because I had done all the right things. I had given him the warning. I had given him a transition. It was a routine kind of thing in our day. I had done all the right things by the book, but it didn't make sense. I was so frustrated and I absolutely couldn't make sense of it. So I even booked an appointment with the author of this super popular book, How to Talk to Kids So They'll Listen and Listen So They'll Talk, the toddler version. So I actually booked an appointment with the author, one of the authors of this book, and I explained the story to her, and she just was like, oh, okay, you know, sometimes it's hard for them to transition. She gave me all the textbook stuff, like stuff that Google tells you. Why is my kid having a hard time transitioning from playtime to bedtime? Whatever, whenever you ask Google, that's what Google tells you. And this lady, this expert, told me that. And it's not like she is wrong. No, she's right for 80% of the people out there. But I'm one in the 20% of neurodivergent families. And for me, this absolutely was not the right answer. My son had an absolutely disproportionately aggressive reaction to this transition, to the simple transition, because he's ADHD. And I wish that this expert, who is really, she's really an expert, I wish she had considered, she'd asked me a couple of qualifying questions to maybe assess whether my son might have been on the spectrum or not. I wish she had, because if I had just known sooner that my son's brain operates differently because he's ADHD, and 2 years later I found out not only that, he's also autistic. If I had just known that, I would have just had so much more patience for this struggle that he's having, transitioning, and the reactions, aggression, or the absolute meltdown that he doesn't want to transition right now. I would be able to deal with that. I'd be able to accept that, and I'd be able to use techniques that work for neurodivergent kids and moms, not what works for everybody else. Because guys, most of the parenting advice out there does not work for neurodivergent families, does not work for autistic kids and autistic parents. It just doesn't. And I've learned this the hard way. I've probably spent $200 to $500, probably close to $500 in courses, books, and these guides, get your kid to sleep on time guide type of things, and routine cards, everything. And none of it has worked because those things are made for neurotypical families, neurotypical kids and moms. And I just don't have that. That's not my reality. I wish that author had said, maybe your child is on the spectrum. Like, maybe just a question mark. Like, of course, there's a chance that I'd be offended and I'd be scared because, I mean, nobody wants to hear that about your, kid. Oh, your kid's autistic. Like, nobody wants to hear that. I didn't want to hear it. I made a whole video about it. You can watch that. That's why I made the bold statement that I did earlier, that your child is having this extreme reaction, maybe because they're on the spectrum. Don't hate me right now. Just like, hear me out. This is like what I was begging you to do in the beginning of this video, because I wish that somebody had raised this curiosity in me, this possibility in me back when I was looking for answers myself. Another reason why I made that statement earlier that this might be happening because your kid's, on the spectrum, is because I'm also on the spectrum and I'm doing an extreme amount of work on myself right now to figure out why I behave certain ways when I do. So a lot of it is because I'm autistic and I'm ADHD, but there is still a deeper meaning behind it. So my autistic brain always wants to know why. Like, I need to know why. And this is in my family. My dad will drive you crazy by asking why. And I made a whole video about that also. Please watch it. My daughter actually asks why all the time. Like, of course, she's 2.5. I mean, this is like supposed to, but still, she just goes extra. And the thing is because I'm the same. I'm constantly asking why. And if I don't know the why behind something, I absolutely cannot commit to that thing with my heart and my mind. I've actually lost jobs in the past because the why of the company or the bosses just wasn't clear, was fuzzy, or was not clean. And, my autistic integrity was just like, not for me. I don't know the why, and I don't want to be part of this. So digging into this why, I wanted to figure out what causes this all or nothing feeling in me. So my last video was about hyperfocus and this like all or nothing feeling. I really went into hyperfocus. I pushed myself beyond my limits, really physical, mental, emotional limits. And I crashed afterwards. I had a really big calm down. So shortly after I made my last video, I went into like a mini depression. It lasted 2 days, thankfully not very long, but still I wanted to know why this is happening. Like, I knew a part of me, a part of my mind, a part of my consciousness knew that this is not healthy, this is not sustainable. But the other huge part of me just couldn't help myself. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, engaging in that thing that I just did not want to transition out of. Like, literally, it was like me at my playground, my computer, just not wanting to leave the playground. I didn't want to eat, sleep, use the toilet, like nothing, do the laundry, nothing. I just really didn't want to. So I was in the exact same position as my little boy when he was 2.5 years old and he didn't want to come inside from playing. I was the same, and I wanted to know why. So for me, it was happening because of this fear that I will lose this opportunity. I really had this fear that if I don't jump on this inspiration right now, or this timing, or this like whatever, the speed that I was on, this momentum, that if I get off this train, that train will forever leave, and I will never, ever, 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 ever get a chance to be on that train and journey from point A to point B ever again. So there was this fear that this is it. And if I lose this chance, I will never get it back. If you're listening to this and being like, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, of course it doesn't make sense from the rational mind. From the rational mind, it's like, of course you're going to get a chance, or if you don't, maybe there's a reason for it. But the emotional mind, like the emotional brain, is really like a child's brain, like a 2.5-year-old's brain. And I was operating from that place, like I couldn't. So this is also happening in your kids when they're having a hard time transitioning. How to actually help your child transition better next time without having this huge panic attack that they're going into. Some of them are going to express that panic by becoming aggressive or having a meltdown, throwing themselves on the floor. Maybe not a meltdown, but a tantrum, throwing themselves on the floor, making a scene or whatever, but what can we actually do ahead of time or even in the moment to help your child out of this panic? And some kids will express that panic by laughing or becoming super naughty or causing trouble, running away, hiding their shoes, or throwing things down, wrecking the place, whatever. In that moment, what you can do to help your kid who's in this panic mode is to tell them, this will still be here the next time. I know it's really sad or frustrating that this is finished for now. I know you were having so much fun and it's so hard to even imagine that this ending, but I promise you, and you know this, that this is going to be here also later, and you can come back, and you will come back. There's a time and place, like the appointment is in my calendar. You're going to come back. Create anticipation in them that they're going to have to wait a short while, but then they get to experience this thing again. And once you can really truly inspire that inspiration, that anticipation in them, that they're going to come back to this and they're going to again have this super cool experience playing in the sandbox or visiting a friend, whatever it is that's causing the hard transition, you as the parent can already start to look forward to the next time, so that your child vibes with you, vibes on your same frequency, and also is focused on the next time rather than your next activity that you're trying to transition to. So you as the parent are also gonna have to become super excited about the next playtime or the play date or the trip to the playground or whatever it is, because they're going to feel that, they're going to know that, man, it's too bad, our time's up, but I'm so excited to come back here with you again next week or tomorrow or whenever. Kids on the spectrum are like little antennas, and they're little mind readers, so they can really sense and feel what's going on in your emotional body. So when they feel you, that you have the same enthusiasm as them that they're experiencing right now, but you have that about the next appointment or the next opportunity to have this experience, then they're going to then they can rest into your excitement, they can rest into your feeling, and they can allow yourself, and they'll allow you to take the lead and guide them out from one activity to the next activity. I hope you'll try this out and let me know in the comments what is your experience with transitions, how bad it really gets for you, or if it's super good, then what is your secret? Please tell me, because I need to know. And if you actually try what I just suggested, I'd also love to hear how it went, because it's also something I'm currently putting into experiment mode with my family, and I'm really excited to see the results on a consistent basis. Now that I think of it, this might be connected to theory of mind. Theory of mind meaning whatever my reality is, I assume that that's everybody else's reality. So it's like flipping theory of mind on its head. I am changing my reality to the fact that, playtime is over, but I'm so excited for the next playtime, and I am banking on theory of mind that my child resonates back with me, and that becomes their reality also. My video about theory of mind is right here if you want to check that out.